I want to name some folk before I go deep into this talk. I want to acknowledge Jill and her womb. And I want to acknowledge the womb that Jill came from, which is Joyce. So I salute Joyce's womb. And I want to acknowledge the womb that Joyce came from, which was Cheney or Mary's womb. And I want to acknowledge the womb that Cheney came from, which was Trellis's womb, whose name I took on just last year because she said so as an ancestor. And I want to also acknowledge Trellis's womb and acknowledge the womb she came from, which was Grandma Finney. I don't know the names after. It doesn't matter because I know that a womb, inside of a womb, inside of a womb, inside of a womb, inside of a womb, I don't have to know. But I know right here because I have a womb and they're all connected. So I want to invite you to take a moment to think about the wombs that manifested you. I want you to take a moment to think about the person who took time and energy, may not have made it to 9 months, may not have pushed you out through that powerful canal, right? May have got a C-section. You might have come early, but she did that. And here you sit. Powerful stuff. So I acknowledge that. And I want to also say that my talk is about something that is painful, but I'm going to invite you not to feel sorry for me. There is nothing to feel sorry for because I'm operating from my purpose. So my talk is partly about my daughter, Shawnee Gibson, who passed away at age 30 due to a birth-related pulmonary embolism. Big word for a blood clot, right? She passed away 14 days after giving birth to my grandson, Kari. And her baby girl was 2 years old when her mother transitioned. So when crowds are like, oh, I'm like, wait, that's not the end. My daughter lived 11,248 days. And that day of death does not have the final word. This talk is about wombs and words because they create worlds. This talk is about the inequity that exists. In the United States, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die doing the most natural thing they could ever do, which is bring new life into the world. What is that about? And because my talk is about words, I'm going to tell you straight talk. It's about racism, structural. It's about racism, systemic. It's about white supremacy culture. Oh my goodness. My talk is about wombs and words. Oh my goodness. So that little girl died. She passed away. She transitioned. And at her homegoing service, which is my word, my people's word for funeral, I chose to stand before the 1,000 people in this space and those who were watching because, like Mamie Till, it's like the world needs to know she died and that it was a preventable death. So I wanted everybody who could look that day or another day to have the opportunity to see this life that was led and then also see the tragic loss of a woman who was about the business of manifesting all the time. My daughter had 2 businesses. She was an artist, unapologetic. She did installation. She did hair. She worked with her hands and she did it well. She was the only person on the planet that could check her mama and like really, really check her mama. And I was like, all right. You know, even from the grave, she's still checking her mama. So when I think about that, I'm proud of that. But I think about all of the other women who have passed that don't necessarily have businesses or didn't get an education. And I'm like, they deserve to have their names spoken too. When I went to the March on Washington and spoke about Black maternal health, I spoke her name in the name of many other women. Dope women. But what about the women that are on drugs, right? What about the women whose children were taken away because she didn't have adequate housing or, you know, she had a mental health issue? What about the women who slept with 50 men and so what? They deserve equity, right? They don't have to have a college degree or to have businesses or to be well known in community to receive equitable care when they are going in to prayerfully have a baby safely. We can't guarantee that because once again in the United States, we're 3 to 4 times more likely if you look like me not to make it. And many of those deaths are preventable. Words. Words can shake me to the core, but they've been there for me all of my life. As a little kid, when I would be like, why is grandma acting that way? Or, did such and such, he's drunk. I would get my ass kicked. I would, but it never stopped me. So when on October 11th, which was the birthday of my daughter's mate, because we were so committed to making sure that her homegoing was powerful, so we did it on his birthday. So when she laid in her casket and everybody was gathered, I'm like, I'm taking this mic. I will not roll on the floor. I will not pull her out of the coffin. Y'all have seen it, right? Fainting. Hell no. That girl would haunt me. It's like, Ma, don't embarrass me. Do not embarrass me. So I stood and I delivered. And you know what they said, words. She's in shock. She doesn't know what happened. She's going through. But when it hits her, I'm like, that's what you pray for me? Words. No, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I'll cry later. Today I will teach. Today, that girl that lived the life that she lived, we will make sure that her life is known about and that nobody else has to die like this. Words. When she said she couldn't breathe, they told her, oh, you need to rest. You need to get off your feet. She died of a pulmonary embolism. Anybody who knows anything about that, that was the worst advice you could have ever given. But my family rallied. We know what to do, cooked up something. Not me, because I'm not a cook. But other people gathered together, made food. She laid up, and it made the condition worse. One of the things I'm so happy about, is that I was there. I was there when my baby came out and cried for the first time, and I was there when she breathed her last breath. I know for damn sure that if I wasn't there and someone called me and said, Shawnee died, you might not see me on this stage. Not because I took my life, but I would be so devastated by that. Someone else was there for her final rite of passage, but her mama was there. I heard her final words. You know what they were? I'm bleeding out. She wasn't. She had a C-section. But in the delirium and the shock, that's what she thought was happening to her. And now that I think about it, she was. This country bled her out. The implicit bias, the discrimination, the microaggressions. You're smart for a black girl. You're pretty for a black girl. That bled her out. The final words at the hospital, she's in grave condition. I'm like, yeah, her condition was kind of grave when she came out the womb as a black girl, because that's the way this society works. The final words, we're going to call it. You called it before she even made it to kindergarten, if you really want to be honest. Final words, she's gone. Nah, because we're a spiritual family. She's here right now. She said, put on the yellow, Ma. Wear the fancy fly earrings, Ma. Tell them like it is, Mom. Make them listen, Mom. Make them remember that black wombs create worlds. And so that's what I'm doing today. I am so grateful that you are all here listening. I love words. I love them to my core. I would read books and they would say the end, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to write a new ending. That's just who I am. And today I speak truth as I understand it as a black woman. And I invite you to take in the truth that there are women dying as I stand that look like me. And part of the reason why is because we are willfully ignorant in this country, willfully and woefully. And we have no right to keep it going. COVID was a pause so that we can look and see. Yes. And now that we see, what the hell are we going to do? Right? Because looking is not enough. Words without action to fuel the revolution is just talking. It's like tinkling sound with no meaning to it. So tonight, I think about the words and I think about what I want to leave you with. I think about the fact that the segment that I'm in right now was called Expand, and that's by divine intervention, because my mantra for living is I expose myself to expand myself. And that's a hard life. That's a very hard life. I'm sad to say that On the continuum, my daughter's death was not my only trauma as it relates to reproductive health. I've released pregnancies, words, released, not aborted, not terminated, released pregnancies. I've experienced preterm labor and almost died. I gave birth to a premature child that had a duodenal atresia, stomach and intestines not connected, and all the while was going through severe postpartum depression and having delusions, and no one asked me a damn thing about how I was doing. Could have died, thought about killing myself and taking my baby's life, white-knuckled it, maybe I black-knuckled it through the process, and I'm still standing. Then at all 3 of my pregnancies experienced postpartum, kept pushing through, because that's what I do. And then when my daughter died, I thought because I had knowledge that I was already an activist in reproductive health, that she would be spared. Do y'all know knowledge, the word, is not enough? Someone said earlier, and it's said all the time, when you know better, you do better. I'm like, nah. When you do better, you do better. Knowing is not enough. We know a lot of things, and they don't shift anything. So I implore you today to take action based on what I'm saying. I want you to think about that in Georgia and Louisiana. And where I come from in New York, it was 12 times more likely, but now it's 8 times more likely for someone that looks like me and some of you in the audience or your daughters or your granddaughters to die giving birth. Find out the statistics in your state. And don't believe the hype. If your state is one that they have a low rate, check and see how many black folk live there. Why am I saying that? Because it's important. In Vermont, there's hardly any deaths. Y'all laughing because I don't have to say any more. So, I want to share something. I'm going to geek out for this final moments that I have. I love words, and I'm a nerd. I love homophones. I love them, and for those who are not really into that, they're words that sound the same, but have different spelling and meaning. And so tonight, to close out, I want to share 3 of those words with you. Right, R-I-T-E. Right, R-I-G-H-T. Right, W-R-I-T-E. So, I want to restore the ritual where granny midwives catch the babies and hold them up and declare them to spirit, whatever that means for you. I want to restore the rituals where we honor, and I would have done it tonight, but it slipped my mind, but I'm coming back to it. Before I even started the talk, ask who's the eldest in this space? And can I have permission to begin from you? Because we've been talking all day. Who asked the elders if we could? Nobody. I want to restore the rituals of making sure that mom is good. Good food, back rubs, like all the good stuff, right? I want to restore the rituals of using herbs and not commodifying birth or medicalizing birth, but restoring it to its right order. Being pregnant is not a medical condition. It's not a sickness, so why are we at hospitals? And I'm not knocking them, but we can do it at home and at birthing clinics. Ritual, alignment, restoration. And right, policies, procedures. But it's not enough because you have to do work around anti-racism to actually apply them and not repeat the same thing over and over again. Write stories. Put stories to the statistics. It's so important. Speaking the names, writing the names, not just my daughters, but the woman who lives in a place where she doesn't have a lot, the woman that struggles with her addiction. Her womb matters too, and so do her babies. And the final one, right? R-I-G-H-T. Reproductive rights, which are human rights. Righting the wrongs. Telling the true story about the granny midwives and what happened to them and how they criminalized them for doing what was before beneficial for those that are part of the dominant culture. Right. And I'm going to implore you once again to do what is right. Don't walk out of here and say that was a great talk. I don't need it. Walk out of here talking to someone about what you heard. Don't believe me? Check the stats. Look at the story. They just did a whole bunch of research and statistical data on reproductive outcomes in this country. We're doing abysmally. Nice multisyllabic words, syllabic. Somebody say it for me. Syllabic, multisyllabic word. So, wombs and words. I thank you for all the wombs that are present in this space. I thank you for the words you thought in your head and those that you will speak when we move from this space, because I trust and believe that you'll take that on. And I just thank you for being. And I want you to value the being of Black, Indigenous people of color. Because when they produce, because Black lives matter and Black wombs matter, boy, this world is going to transform. But we got to make sure that they survive and not miss out, right? On the opportunity to live and give and be purposeful. Thank you for listening, everyone. Thank you.